The Great War. A conflict that reshaped the world, changed nations, and left an indelible mark on history. Today, let's unravel the gripping story of World War I, a war like no other before it. It all began with a spark, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria on June 28, 1914. What followed was a domino effect of alliances, misunderstandings, and rivalries. The world was drawn into a conflict that no one could escape. On one side, we had the Allied powers, France, Britain, Russia, and later the United States. On the other, the Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. But what made this war so devastating wasn't just the sides. It was the new technologies that turned battlefields into nightmares. The first tanks, rapid-fire machine guns, poison gas, and the dawn of aerial warfare. These were tools of destruction that the world had never seen before. And they turned trenches into grim theaters of suffering. The trenches stretched for miles, and life inside them was brutal. Soldiers faced hunger, disease, and the constant threat of death. Imagine being knee-deep in mud, surrounded by rats, with artillery shells exploding overhead. It was a daily reality for millions. Letters from the front lines reveal the raw emotions of those who lived through the war. Hope, despair, longing for loved ones. These were the voices of the soldiers, preserved in ink and paper. But even in the midst of horror, there were glimmers of humanity. Like the Christmas truce of 1914, when soldiers on both sides laid down their weapons to sing carols, exchange gifts, and even play football. It was a brief moment of peace in a war that seemed endless. As the war dragged on, battles became more devastating. The Battle of the Somme, one of the deadliest in history, saw over 1 million casualties. At Verdun, the fighting lasted for 10 months, leaving the land scarred and the people forever changed. Back home, the war brought significant societal changes. Women stepped into roles traditionally held by men, working in factories, driving ambulances, and serving as nurses on the front lines. Their contributions not only supported the war effort but also paved the way for future movements for equality. By 1917, the war's dynamics shifted. The United States entered the conflict, bringing fresh troops and resources. Meanwhile, Russia faced internal turmoil, leading to the Russian Revolution and their eventual withdrawal from the war. World War I also saw the development of new military strategies. From trench warfare to creeping barrages, commanders constantly adapted to the evolving nature of the battlefield. But the cost in lives was staggering. After years of unimaginable suffering, the end finally came. On November 11, 1918, the armistice was signed, and the guns fell silent. The war was over, but its impact would be felt for generations. The Treaty of Versailles officially ended the war in 1919, but it left deep scars. Harsh reparations and territorial losses sowed seeds of resentment in Germany, setting the stage for future conflict. Meanwhile, the League of Nations was established, a precursor to today's United Nations, in an attempt to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. World War I also accelerated technological and cultural shifts. From advances in medicine to the changing role of women in society, the war's legacy was complex and far-reaching. It was a turning point that reshaped the modern world. World War I was a tragedy that shaped the 20th century. Its lessons, its sacrifices, and its stories remain as relevant today as ever. Let us remember those who lived through it and those who never came back. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that shaped our world. Let's uncover history together.